Welcome to The Warehouse. Have you ever heard a sermon and thought, how in the world did he discover that? Or where did he get that idea? Every week at Cornerstone Church, two teams dig into the biblical text that'll be taught during our weekend services. We spend hours talking about the text, the context, the culture of the time, you name it. But you can't stuff all that into a 30-minute message. That's where we come in. We're going to show you the stuff in the warehouse that didn't make it to the stage. Hey, somebody sitting in my chair? Has somebody been sitting in my chair?
I feel like that's totally a Goldilocks thing. Is that Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Yeah.
I need answers. Has somebody been sitting in my chair?
Mm-mm.
Nope. Nobody?
No.
All right.
Mm-mm.
Hey, but
All
welcome
right.
back, Jay.
Hey, thanks. Hey, Morgan. I think you've been sitting in my chair. What's your favorite summer activity? Filling in for other people's podcasting?
Yeah. Yeah, that's my number one favorite thing to do. That's why I'm doing it 2 weeks in a row.
Favorite summer activity?
Favorite summer activity? Probably. So I like to golf.
Oh,
Whoa, didn't see that.
Didn't see that. I don't know how to take that.
I'm sorry.
You slice and you're out in the rough, and so she's looking on the fairway and can't see you.
Yeah,
I don't
that is actually probably true.
Did you understand any
Nope.
of those?
I played golf in high school.
Did
Oh, sweet.
you?
Yep.
Okay.
I was not very good, but I
Oh.
played. I was on the team.
You did it.
I made the cut.
Yeah, you did.
How many people tried out?
Enough
Okay.
that some people didn't make it.
Really?
I got cut my freshman year though. During the tryout, 2-day tryout. After the first day, he told me don't come back.
But you made it.
I made it my sophomore year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just worked really, really hard.
Right.
Way to be, man. Way to be.
Yeah.
So proud of you.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what's your favorite summer activity?
So I like to paddleboard. Paddleboarding is a thing that I try to do at least like once a week. And then the other thing I really enjoy is watching my kids swim.
Paddleboarding is the thing where you're standing on the floating thing
Yep.
with the big stick.
Right. Exactly. But whenever I go paddleboarding, it's normally like with friends and stuff because I do have friends, guys. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't see that.
And so whenever we go paddleboarding, we do dumb things like try to stand on each other's boards or knock each other off.
Ooh, do you try to like switch boards?
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, stuff like that. So then we fall in. And the funny thing is I'm terrified of fish. Yep. So I flail like a crazy maniac as
Yeah.
soon as I fall into the
You wear
water.
life jackets?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
But you can't swim.
I can swim.
Oh.
Not well. Like, not like my kids. My
Oh,
kids
okay.
can
Oh,
like,
wow. They're competitive swimmers.
right. But me, I'm like, I can doggy paddle with the best of them.
Nice.
You're kind of torturing yourself. Like your favorite summer activity also includes your biggest fear.
Yeah, that with mice. Mice is also another.
Ooh, water mice are even.
yeah, those ones.
Man, oh man.
They'll get you. Watch out. What's your favorite summer activity, Jay?
Making sure my air conditioner works.
It's not like checking on your chickens or mowing the lawn.
I do enjoy being on the riding mower.
Yeah. Do you listen to some like good podcasts?
Yeah, podcasts, books. Yeah. YouTube videos. Yeah,
Okay.
It's good. It's good. Man. All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
That was a good
Wait, no, hold on.
conversation.
I'm a little rusty at this.
No,
Let's talk about the Bible.
that's what we do here.
That's what?
What we do here. Talk about the Bible.
Yeah. It'll come back to me. Matthew 7, 1 through 6, and then 12 through 14.
Nope.
Yep. We
Nope,
switched
just
it up.
12.
1 through 6, and then 12.
Yep.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Thank you.
Well, hey, what was your big idea?
Are we starting with me?
We're starting with you.
Focus on your own sin before focusing on someone else's.
Morgan was gone yesterday during exegesis and graciously did a little bit of study while waiting today.
Graciously.
Did you come up very graciously?
Yes.
Did you
I
come
did.
up with a big idea?
I did.
This guy.
He's
did.
prepared.
All right, you can sit in my seat when I'm gone.
Okay, great. It's it's not an amazing one. It's very simple, but don't be prideful. Treat others how you want to be treated.
Whoa. That's good.
Boy, remember that. That's some foreshadowing. You're gonna come back. I typed, having the humility to deal with my own issues makes it possible for me to help others with theirs. If you remember, that's exactly what I said yesterday.
I was getting ready to say that does not sound at all what you said yesterday.
I mean, memories play tricks on us sometimes.
I don't think that's what
what
you
I
said
remember.
yesterday. You
Yeah.
weren't there.
What kind of context do we need to bring back into this area? Because we're still in the Sermon on the Mount,
Right.
Still in the same place,
Yep.
same book of the Bible.
No.
We are.
We are. So I had chapter 5, Jesus is the fulfiller and interpreter of the law. Chapter 6, God is our father. And chapter 7, God is my judge. And we have 2 decisions to make. But also we'll see in this chapter, God is still father and parts and pieces of it, but still. Okay. And then Jesus has been teaching within the context of Israel's religious leaders and the way they practice their righteousness. The people of Israel,
Say that again. Jesus has been teaching in the context of.
within the context of Israel religious leaders. So
he's teaching now by also bringing in things that the people have heard.
been
Okay.
learning and been taught their whole life. So Jesus is going against like, hey, this is not your sole thing that you should be focusing on doing these acts right. Okay.
Yeah. So
And-
he's not necessarily going against. He's taking further. He's changing how they focus on.
Right. Yeah, not necessarily going against, but there is some things I would say like he kind of pushes back on
yeah.
a lot. Okay. And then the people of Israel learned to seek approval and criticize others instead of humbly and graciously living out their religious beliefs. This led to a false religious experience marked by their pride and fear of judgment.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
I think that's pretty good,
Did
Stephanie.
you? Thank you,
Wow.
Morgan. I'm so glad that you're co-hosting with us today.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Good thing you're in that seat.
Yeah. I'm going to mess with Nathan's seat now.
That's right.
He's getting a little wiggly.
Yeah. Well, anything else?
Did you have any context?
I just briefly, I didn't have a ton here, but I just put in there that I think that contextually, this is a pretty good bookend to what we've just talked about. You know, Jesus has talked about not being a hypocrite, doing things in private, placing the right value on belongings, necessities. And then he goes on to say, hey, let's not judge each other. So you just get this kind of ending to what he's talking about in a way of like, hey, we struggle with performative living or worrying, but you don't need to do that because we're told not to even to judge other people. So they shouldn't be worrying about what other people are doing anyways, only their relationship with God. So in the perspective of like performative living and worrying about all these different things, like God's in control, focus on your relationship with him. And we get to see that play out through here of like God's the one who does the judging. And I just think it's a really cool way to not entirely wrap it all up, but the placement of where this is at is
Right.
quite strategic.
Yeah.
Fun. Well, all
It's
right.
like Jesus knew what he was doing.
I think he might have.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
He's pretty great. And that'll be it. Cut. All right. Well, how about verses 1 through 5?
Okay.
Let's hit it. Judge not that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that's in your own? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. What you got?
So, like, one of the main things that I pointed out yesterday was this is a verse that gets misquoted a lot, and people use this verse in a way of receiving universal approval, or to use the phrase "only God can judge me."
Yeah.
But for this, it is again.
Tupac.
Okay, he was throwing signs up at me, and I was really confused. Okay, but anyways. But for this, it is, again, talking about our heart and our posture, and we cannot see clearly when we have a huge log coming out of our eye. And so we need to be focusing on ourselves and not necessarily focusing on everyone else's things. But a lot of us, not a lot of us, but people tend to take this verse as like, you can't judge me, only God can.
Yeah.
And that's not what this verse is really talking about here.
Yeah, and so a lot of times they're not even misquoting it. They're just taking it way out of context. A lot of times we're not misquoting it. We're taking it way out of context.
Right.
What you got?
Yeah,
Anything?
one of the things that I noticed when reading this is just how Jesus focuses a lot on kind of reciprocation for what you do. So we see here, like, the way that you judge is the same way that you will be judged. So very similar to seek your reward here on earth from people, then that is your reward, and you get no reward in heaven.
Right.
Yeah.
Or seek to honor God, and then God will reward you in heaven. We see a lot of the same things here that Jesus focuses on, like reciprocity. I just think it's pretty cool and something to take into consideration whenever we think about and talk about this, that it's not necessarily saying that we can't view or look at other people, we can't evaluate them, but the way that we judge them and the way that we judge ourselves is, God is going to look at that and he's going to be like, hey, you looked at yourself and you said, I'm great, but look at them.
Yeah.
And he's going to come at you and be like, no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it neat. So one of the things I've been trying to do throughout the series is, as Jesus says something, you have heard this, and be like, well, where did they hear it? What was the context in which they would have heard? And even here about judging. And so I'm thinking, well, did the Jews in Jesus' day, were they doing a lot of judging?
Yeah.
Was that a thing? And one of the things I found says that Jewish tradition accepts. So they accept the idea that judging is built into human nature. And I thought that was pretty enlightening for me, because it sure is.
Oh, yeah.
Even, the worst driver out there thinks he's a good driver.
Yeah.
I did not look at you on purpose.
No.
That
I'm
was-
just thinking, one of our podcasts not too long ago, driving was like the main thing. Like, you just kept going back to about people at stop signs and stoplights. You really, how do you do with driving with people?
Oh, I'm a recovering road rage.
Yeah. I
aholic.
think that's what you said last time too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm a really good driver.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You saw Baby Driver was based on my early years. It was not. But they accept this idea that judging is built into our very nature. And so there were teachings that played into that. So we're gonna judge. And so the advice was even built into the Talmud. The Talmud is those teachings that were built on to the Torah, built on to the prophets. And one of them lists 6 behaviors that benefit us both in this world and the next. And judging was part of it. Except it says, one who judges another favorably, giving him the benefit of the doubt. So you're going to judge, but give the benefit of the doubt when you do.
Yeah.
And that might be one of those lines between judging and judgmentalizing. Being a right judge and being someone who's just judgmental about everything.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good.
Anything else? Verses 1 and 2?
So this passage condemns shallow and hypocritical behavior, specifically the act of judging other believers as if one were God. Such sneering condemnation is clearly and repeatedly forbidden in other parts of the Bible. So we see it in Romans 14:10 through 13, in James 4:11 through 12. And I'm not going to read all of Romans because it's pretty long, but James 4:11 through 12 says, "Do not speak evil against one another, brothers. The one who speaks against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not the doer of the law, but a judge. There's only one lawgiver and judge, he who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor?" I liked it.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I liked that one.
You mentioned the fact that, I guess, that commentator talked about judging believers. And up to this point, we haven't
Hit that part.
hit
Yeah, that's
anything.
in verse 3.
Yeah. So, yeah, what do you have? Verse 3.
Yeah, so one thing that really stuck out to me while studying this is saying, like, see the speck that is in your brother's eye. And then in also verse 5, like where he says to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So this is a relationship that is built strong. This is not somebody who is not within the faith that you're just standing on a street corner yelling at somebody, telling them how much they're sinning and judging them for what they're doing. This is a relationship that you've built with another person and you're wanting to help like grow them anyways. But
yeah. And how many of us are guilty of judging somebody who's not a Christian based on the moral system that Jesus has in place for his people?
Expecting non-believers to act like believers.
Right.
It's almost insane, but we do it all the time. Yeah.
Right. Or you have the non-believers who throw this verse in there into believers' faces and like, no, you're not supposed to be judging me, which honestly, they're kind of true because they're not believers.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Right. Especially judging them on the scale of, well, you're not living according to the Bible. Yeah, no kidding. They don't believe the Bible is God's written word.
Right. They're not walking with the Lord. So
yeah, one of the things I love about you bringing up, and this just kind of popped into my head, you talking about the relationship aspect of it. And I think of some of the most like powerful conversations I've had with my dad or with a family member, a friend. But like the example that came to mind specifically was my dad like getting on to me for something, and then maybe he handled something the wrong way at the same time, and then coming up to me and like telling me, hey, I'm sorry for the way I handled this, but do you also see where you went wrong as well? And you know, if he didn't apologize, I mean, he didn't have to, but it also would have left this distaste in at least my mind of like, man, like you completely, you know, maybe we're out of line in this area, but you're coming at me like I'm the only one doing something wrong. And whenever we do that to other believers, whenever we don't self-evaluate first, it completely, I mean, people shut down whenever they see it. They're like, seriously? Like you're acting high and mighty, you're self-righteous, you're the only one that doesn't do anything, you know, you don't have any sin in your life. And it's just so important for us as believers to first self-evaluate before we start just calling out other people's crap.
Which is so good that you're like talking about this too, is because we tend to see other people's minor sins as huge sins. And then yet we totally miss the huge sins that we're committing in ourselves because we tend to look more at other people and see how wrong they are.
Right.
And miss the whole things that we're struggling with. But also there is that tendency to swing the total opposite direction where we get so self-focused and we can't look past anything where it's almost crippling.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. That speck. Why do you see the speck that's in your brother's eye? It's that idea of like a bit of sawdust. So like a super dry, super tiny little thing.
Yeah, I read that this is like another hyperbole. And we keep seeing like Jesus he's trying to make a big point, right? All throughout the Sermon on the Mount, he has used so many hyperboles to like just grab our attention. And so a speck is so small, that sawdust is so tiny. And yet you said yesterday, how would you describe it?
So the word so this word speck and the word log, the only places they're used are here in this story and in Luke's telling of this story on the Sermon on the Plain. And so the log, the idea that it's the cross beam of a ceiling or a floor, like it's the thing that runs the length of your building, and so that's the juxtaposition that they're doing. That this little piece of dust. So something's happened as you're building this house, right? And disaster's struck, and the house falls, and you look over, and your buddy's got some sawdust in his eye. And you're saying, oh, let me help you get that out of your eye, while you have the cross beam of the whole building just sticking out of your head.
Just like, I'm trying to think, like a 4x6, like how big is this thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And how fitting. I in the commentary I was reading, I don't know why this has never dawned on me. It's one of those things where you're like, how did I not like even see this? But like Jesus being a carpenter and then talking about sawdust and a log in your eye, it's like, okay. Yeah.
That's kind of
like
cool.
Speaking from personal, like pulling from his own stories and stuff that people
good.
may have known him for, if not known him for, at least he knew. And I just thought that was really cool. And I was like, oh, wow, Jesus he's humorous here. You know,
That's really good.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read from a commentator was talking about how like this could have possibly been like a very funny illustration too, because imagining that huge beam coming out of somebody's eye, like it would totally whack you in the face.
Yeah.
Like it's going to knock somebody out.
Yeah.
And yet the tiny little speck, like, yeah, it's irritating to the person with it in his eye, but it's not going to harm other people. And I think that was another thing I read is like your log that's coming out actually could be harmful to others, like not only by like hitting them, but like the effect that your sin can have on other people.
Yeah.
You're giving somebody a concussion
Yeah.
while trying to deal with their little speck in their eye.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just kept envisioning this skit of a guy with big log coming out of his eye, and he's looking down, and he looks up, and he's like, "Oh, hey Jay, you've got a speck," and then knocks him right in the yeah.
Just knocks. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Would be hilarious.
I was just so as Stephanie, as you were talking, Pirates of the Caribbean towards the end of the movie, they've gotten rid of their cannonballs, but now they need to fight, so they're throwing silverware into the cannons, and one of the guys on the other ship has a wooden eye. And the camera pans, and he's got a fork just sticking out of that wooden eye, and it's moving. So yeah,
That's what you
the
thought.
fork smaller than the carrier
Yeah.
beam of a house.
Yeah.
Oh man. Or how can you say to your brother? So we talked about this part today. So the first part, why do you see the speck that's in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that's in your own eye, which is absurd to begin with, because anytime I get an eyelash in my eye, it's just I can't.
Yeah.
I told a story yesterday when I had LASIK, 24 years ago. One of the bristles on the brush that gets your cornea back, or the flap in your cornea back correct, one of the bristles got stuck in between, like in the flap in the cornea, and I couldn't stop blinking. And I thought I'd just ruined my life by this thing. And so that tiny little bristle of a tiny little brush just ruined my eye. And here Jesus saying, you don't notice this log that's in your eye. And so talking there about those things in our lives that we really don't notice.
Right.
And yet we don't have anybody close by that's looking into our life to help us with our stuff. And we don't have it. But here in verse 4, we switch the or and how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when there's a log in your own eye? So this kind of alluding to the fact that, now this guy knows he's got the log in his eye.
Yep.
But I'm not going to deal with this log because maybe it makes me feel a little bit better dealing with your speck.
Yep.
So I don't stay stopped at every traffic light, but I'm going to get upset at you because you do.
Yeah. Right.
I do that a lot. Who is this guy driving the speed limit through this part of town? What is going on here?
yeah, Nathan.
Hey, Nathan, where you at? Driving, I bet you're getting home late because you're driving the speed limit. But it's that say. So we do this. It's the same in all of our lives. I think that we do. We judge and have something that we don't notice in our life that's keeping us back, and we judge when we know that we've got something big in our eye, and we do them both.
I think also, like, just with you talking, like thinking about, man, how we can be judging others, or it causes us to not or to do things. But like sometimes we can be so crippled in the things that our sin is like having us sit in, that we're almost too scared to take the log out of like I don't even know how to word it. Where's Nathan whenever I need him to help finish my sentences? But like the almost like this fear-based thing of like being able to hand our sin over to the Lord freely, of like, no, I'm just going to sit in my mess because I'm too scared to have anybody, not even just the Lord, come into my life, but allowing other people to come into our life to help us get that log out. Like, I think yesterday I talked about like just this part, how much it reminds me so much of Verge, and like why it's so important to have those relationships with people.
You're saying that like people know what Verge is.
I'm going to explain
Thanks.
Verge. You're welcome.
Thanks.
So like a Verge is where you have 2 to 3 people that you meet with weekly, bi-weekly, once a month, whatever works best for you and your schedule. And we have like set questions that we go through, and we hold each other accountable. Like it's an accountability group, and we make sure we're in the Word together, and we call each other out to help us not get these giant logs coming out of our eye. Like we want to stop the speck, like, and help get it out before it becomes a log.
Yeah, because they grow. Everything that becomes a log probably started as a speck in our eye that just kept growing, and we didn't confess it, and we didn't repent.
And then it becomes deep roots. So I don't know if I even circled fully around what I was trying to say, but I hope you're with me on that.
Definitely.
Did I do it?
Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah,
Nailed
I
it.
think so. And I love that you're talking about Verge and just the whole idea behind it, and how if you are going to call other people out, you also have to be willing to be called out. So this is where this whole thing comes into play.
Oh, 100%.
You don't get to join a Verge group and just be the guy who sits there and says, "Oh, I know what you're doing wrong. Oh, I know what you're doing wrong."
Yeah.
Or, "Hey,"
Right.
yeah. Even if you're doing it in a, "Hey, let me help you," it's like, come on, we all have our stuff.
And
Right.
that is our tendency
Yep.
to do is to hide those things that we don't want others to see. And if we're only people who show up on a Friday night or a Sunday morning and don't go find your people
Yeah,
who are going to help walk this thing with you, then we're going to end up with logs in our eyes.
yeah,
Yeah, because like Jesus isn't saying here that it's wrong for us to help our brother or sister with the speck in the eye. It's a good thing to help your brother or sister, like to get that speck out. Like that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's verse 5.
yeah.
Get the log out of your eye, then you will be able to see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye.
So I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but what would we say is the way that we get the log out? I'm asking you guys.
Oh, yeah. It's confession.
Mhm.
It's repentance.
Yeah.
It's self-awareness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Self-control. And it's trusting somebody enough to have in your life who are going to speak into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Craig Evans, I was reading his commentary on this, and he says, Jesus does not forbid all evaluation of others. However, only the person who feels grieved and humbled over their own sin is able to remove the speck from another's eye.
Oh,
And
man.
I just thought that was really good.
That is.
It's also one thing to be aware of your log, just like we're talking about here. But if you can't look at that and be like, "Oh, I'm either grieved or I'm humbled over my own sin, or I recognize it and I want to get rid of it and I'm willing to hear from other people," then you still can't be somebody who can take the speck out of someone else's eye, because you're fine with your log in your eye. And that's also something that we have to avoid.
That is so good. Like we should be grieved by it and like want a sense of humility in that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Real good. It is good you're here today, man.
Wow.
Are we ready to move on to verse 6?
Well, one of the things,
Oh.
so you hypocrite. Here Jesus hits the hypocrites again. It's this inclination to help others without recognizing one's own need for restoration. Like that's the acting, that's the mask that the hypocrite puts on in this scenario.
Yeah.
Is I need help, but I'm not going to own up to that. But man, I'm going to try to make it seem like you're the one that needs help.
Yep.
And I'm the one that's here to help you.
Right. We are no longer coming alongside them to be their judge. We're coming alongside them to be their helper.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. That's I said yesterday. I can I used this thing yesterday. It's funny you brought up golf. I can help anybody with their golf swing.
Yeah.
As long as they don't look at mine.
Yeah.
Because mine isn't going to help you out.
Right.
I can tell you what to do. That's just as long as you don't watch me.
Yeah.
Oh, I do that so much with my daughter in swimming. Like I can tell her like, man, Rylan, your flip turn, like what was that? But do not ask me to do a flip turn.
Yeah.
Like,
Would
no
you
way.
please do a flip turn?
Oh, it'd be hilarious.
And we'll record it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it's that. So you don't claim to know how to flip turn.
No.
And I know I don't play golf. I go and swing the club.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, I'm not good enough to play golf. But it's that idea, the hypocrite saying, no, I can flip turn with the best of them. And this is how you flip turn
Yeah.
without admitting that I have no idea how to flip turn.
Right.
Yep. And this is where I had pulled the beginning of my big idea from, of talking about pride. Don't be prideful. The last time he talks about hypocrites, he's talking about these different religious acts that they did, and pride inherently causing them to do it in a way that they would get noticed by other people. And here in the same way, and we have to recognize that it's our relationship with God first before you start placing judgment on others. You can't go into this with an improper view of yourself. So you're not better. We have to remove pride and realize that we're all here as humans on earth who
Right.
have sinful qualities to us. And the only person who takes that away from us is Jesus. So if that's everybody, we're not better than anyone.
That's good.
Yeah. That's good. Now we can go to 6.
Verse 6.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to read it or me?
Go for it.
You're going to let me read?
I am.
Should I try to do a
Wait.
J voice?
Yeah. Please.
I'm just kidding. I can't.
Oh.
I can't get that low.
Try to do a J voice.
Do not give do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you.
Pretty good reading.
Thank you.
Pretty
Thank
good
you. Thank you.
reading.
Thank you. So Jesus here is reminding us not to be judgmental or critical of others, but that does not mean we shouldn't exercise discernment. We should recognize the value of certain things and not give them to those who will not appreciate them.
Yeah, that's really good. That's where Michael's going to focus in on. It's not name calling. It's not name calling here, but in Jesus's day, the Samaritans, a lot of people in Israel would call Samaritans dogs,
Okay.
and a lot of people would refer to Gentiles
As pigs.
And
Because
so-
they're considered unclean.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so therein lies this is giving what's holy, and it kind of what we talked about earlier is trying to make somebody who doesn't love Jesus
Yeah.
act like Jesus.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. But it's this idea of taking something holy and wasting it, and not trying to make that distinction that it's not the gospel, right?
Right.
Like it's not we're supposed to go and try to win them,
Right.
and share the gospel, but it's the other conversations that we're having of trying to apply what Jesus has for us to live to somebody who isn't in that paradigm.
Yeah.
I think, yes, not, I think. So yesterday when we were studying this, the dogs part, I was like, so we shouldn't think of my super cute golden doodle Hunley when we read this dogs part, right? Like he's
Yeah.
hypoallergenic and adorable. Sometimes
right.
he has a sweet mohawk.
Yeah. Well, these dogs probably had mohawks, but they earned them.
Yeah.
And they
Right.
had prison tattoos. They were-
Mangy.
yeah, more than likely coyotes and like aggressive stray dogs
Okay.
in that scenario. They were probably pets, probably, but that's not what the scenario is. There is that idea of, yeah, these are the dogs you don't mess around with.
Okay.
That's when I was young, roaming the mean streets of Cypress, Illinois.
Hey,
I was friends with 2 brothers, Jackie and Jimmy.
that's good
And
names.
Jimmy and I rode our bikes a little bit quicker than Jackie did, and there was a pretty mean dog in next to one of the stores where we'd ride our bikes, and we were riding and he was barking at us and we were laughing at him, and he broke his chain and started coming after us, and, and so
Oh, no.
Jimmy and I went and we hightailed it, and that dog got Jackie off his bike. And luckily the owner got out there in time to prevent any harm, but it was one of those scenarios that was the dog we're talking about. It's that dog with the log chain, right? That dog, the beast from oh my
Sandlot?
gosh, the Sandlot. Oh my gosh, thanks for picking me up there.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the beast from the Sandlot. Before they before they meet him.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else you got?
that's all I got for that verse. What about you?
That's good stuff. I honestly don't have much to add here because this verse confused me, and
Yeah.
I wasn't in on exegesis, and I mean I did a little bit here where I was trying to kind of figure out what's going on here, and I was reading a few different things, but I really liked the way that you explained it. Kind of just this idea that things that we see as pearls, like these good values and morals then that we might correct other believers in. You can't expect people who aren't believers to want to take them. Right. And quite honestly, they won't care. Like you if they're not, if they're not someone who is a believer, you telling them, hey, you're not supposed to do this, they're just going to stomp all over it. Just like what we see here. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. So actually thank you guys because I didn't really get it.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
High five. All right, the golden rule.
So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. for this is the law and prophets.
Yeah, so I had that this verse serves as a conclusion and summary of Jesus's teaching of discipleship. It connects the previous discussion in Matthew 5:17 regarding the law and prophets. And so other teachers presented a similar instruction to navigate. But Jesus presents in a more demanding and positive form. So if we went back to Matthew 5:17, we would see the law and prophets. He is saying how he came. No, he doesn't say he fulfilled them. We know he fulfilled the law and prophets. I don't have
Elsewhere.
Matthew.
Yeah. Elsewhere, he says, today's the law is fulfilled in your hearing.
Words.
Yeah, they're hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the interesting things. So yeah, the golden rule has been around for ages. Religions around the world would look and say, "Treat others how you want to be treated." And as far back as Confucius, it's the idea. But a lot of those times, it was in the negative sense. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you. And here, so Jesus does flip just a bit and make it the golden rule. So makes it a positive, makes it an active. Do to others how you want to be treated. And that's the thing. But almost every major religion and almost every religion across the world has some form of treat others how you want to be treated and don't treat others how you wouldn't want to be treated.
And even those who aren't religious would still like hold on to this as like just as humans. Like you don't want to treat others bad because
yeah, I would.
You don't want to be treated that way.
Yeah, I treat atheism and agnosticism as religions as well.
Okay.
So yeah, even those religions of people who pretend they don't have a religion.
Yeah.
Would say, yeah. And they're also, don't judge me. But also, yeah, there is that positive note of, we all know instinctively that it's better to treat people the way I want to be treated. Like it's one of those things that's in there that we know it's probably supposed to happen, and it's better if it does.
Right.
But whether we do it or not, this is the law and prophets.
That's all I had.
Yeah, I'd say the main thing I had down from looking at this is how much self-evaluation it takes. Like viewing how you treat others in light of how you want to be treated. Like constantly asking yourself, is what I just did how I would want somebody to do that to me? Is how I just treated that person how I would want to be treated? And like constantly doing that over and over and over, because that's the only way we can really fix the way that we treat other people is by looking back and inward, just like the log in your eye and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing too. I need to take care of the log in my eye before I take care of the speck in yours, because I don't want you, if you have to help me with a speck in my eye, I don't want you trying to do that with a log in yours, not being able to see, your depth perception's all jacked up.
Yeah.
I just made that tie, that the golden rule applies to logs and specks.
Yeah.
Because, man, I got to take care of mine because I don't want you coming at me with that log, because I know I just gave you a concussion trying to help you, but I don't want one from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get knocked out.
Yeah. Don't get knocked out.
Don't get knocked out.
Don't knock someone out with your log, and don't let them knock you out with theirs.
Exactly.
The golden rule. That should have been the icebreaker. You ever been knocked out by a log in somebody's eye?
No, but another thing that I kind of just wanted to, I guess this could be what I'm excited about. So I'll just
Let's
wait.
do it. Shift in. What are you excited about?
You're talking. Go for it.
I'll continue talking.
Go for it.
So discipleship. Like, so this
Is
was
what you're excited about?
Yes. So how this all ties into like discipleship. And whenever we think of discipleship, a lot of people tend to think of like just the part of discipleship that people consider, mentorship. So something that I do here at the church is I help speak into like younger girls' lives and mentor them and help them walk and like look more like Jesus or whatever, and meet with them. Not whatever, but also like another part of discipleship is walking alongside other believers in general to help like point you back to Jesus, help you get the speck out and help you get the log out, and like all of this, like this is what we're called to do, is to be in relationship with one another. And so, yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm excited. Just the way that this can be a game changer for the world if we truly do what this says here of self-evaluating, of treating people how we want to be treated. And, excuse me, just how Jesus is the only way that we can do this. So we have to rely on him. We have to look to him, and how simple he makes it. It doesn't mean that it will be easy. There's this big difference.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so important for us to know, and for me to know, that just because it's not easy to do these things, it's still how he simplifies everything. Like, he just wraps it all up and says, this is the law and prophets. Treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
It's like mind-blowing, because really everything that he's talked about in the Sermon on the Mount up to this point can all be put under that umbrella of treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And
I mean, let's be honest, it's impossible unless we have Jesus there doing it.
exactly.
Because I'm not going to do that.
No.
I'm not going to treat you how I want you to treat me with the respect I deserve. And I'm not really concerned about your respect.
Yep.
Yeah, so without Jesus, it's impossible. Like, as the law and the prophets pointed us, they pointed us to the fact that we can't do this.
Yeah.
And here's what we're supposed to do, and we can't do it, and we need Jesus.
Yep.
And the golden rule kind of does that as well.
Well, later on in Matthew, he says, like, for this is the law and prophets as well, for love your neighbor as yourself and love the Lord your... What? I can't even quote it now. I'm going to find it. Keep talking.
But also, so you go back to Confucius, who says, "Don't treat others the way you don't want to be treated."
Yeah.
That's real easy.
Yeah.
Like we don't need Jesus not to run over somebody with your car. We don't need Jesus not to throw your iced tea back at the server because they didn't give you sweet, they gave you unsweet.
Yeah.
We don't need Jesus to do that. But to go golden rule and go in the affirmative and go in the positive and treat others how you want to be treated, that takes Jesus.
Yep.
I found it.
Nice.
Way to be a good buffer for that for a second. So Matthew 22, 40, verse 40. I'm like, hold on. 38. And he said to them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend on the law and the prophets.
You could have just said you were talking about the greatest commandment.
I couldn't use words at this time.
Isn't that fun when those great commandments is an easy phrase to remember, but then when it's gone, it's just not coming back.
I tried.
They said, hey, here's the greatest commandment. I don't remember it, but...
But just the summary towards the end. So that's all I got.
Yeah.
We did it.
I haven't.
No,
I'm excited to hear.
Oh, he hasn't said that yet?
That,
my bad.
So this idea that judgmentalism is bad, but we have to have people close enough in our lives to be able to see those specks in our eyes, that we have to find our people. And so that's my deep desire for people around here is to find their people and not be satisfied with just showing up 7 minutes after a service starts and leaving 5 minutes before it ends, and getting in, finding your people, and go live this life together. And man, let them take that speck out of your eye. Let them, as you work on the log.
Is that why you're the groups director? Is because you want people in community?
It could be.
Huh, I get that.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. Go get in the group. I think we did it.
We did it.
Man.
Wow.
I missed
Thanks,
last
Morgan.
week. Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. You're the best.
Wow.
We're really excited to have you here again.
Yeah. Just the best. So I missed last week, so I'll be doing some overtime back in the back of the warehouse. But the front, we're turning the key because until next week, guys, the warehouse is closed.
Oh, I thought you were going to have me say it because you pointed, kind of. No, but you were just doing a hand gesture.
Cut that, Parker. Cut that. Cut that.
We're done.
Cut that.